Dreamyard Drone and Love Story. When the is present in the universe, the horses haul manure. When the is absent from the universe, war horses are bred outside the city. Lao Tzu. I wish I could invite you out here. Although, come to think of it, I'm not sure you'd really like it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I can't invite you. I don't have any invitations left. You only get so many, see? And I sent out the last one about a year ago. You'd think I'd be lonely by now. Well, I don't know, maybe I am. It's hard to say. You know, sadness is just sadness. I'm either sad or I'm not. You know better than anyone that loneliness is just sadness, adorned by specificity and definition. It's a bit pretentious if you ask me. My point is, I feel all right. I'm not so sad, not most of the time, so don't spend so much time worrying about me. And for God's sake, please stop telling people I'm dead. Dead is such a silly word anyway. Dead. What the hell is that supposed to mean? From the looks of your last letter, it seems that you haven't understood much of anything I've told you. I've given it some thought, and I've come up with some advice for you. Here it is. If by chance you encounter a piece of imagery while reading my letters, I encourage you to examine it through a kaleidoscope, magnifying glass, telescope, or perhaps the lens of your grandmother's cataract. Any of these helpful tools will bring you closer to the truth of my words than you could ever achieve with your naked mind's eye. I hope this helps. I've been meaning to tell you about the sunflowers. Don't forget your kaleidoscope. They're beautiful and strong, even in unexpected frosts. They grow tall and gaze toward the sun steadily, like the flight of a perfect origami airplane. I've also been meaning to tell you about the drone. For the last several years, it seems the yard has been experiencing the unfortunate disruption of a horrible, awful, very bad drone buzz moan thug coming from across the border. Your side of the border, that is. Perhaps you've noticed it yourself, although I sincerely doubt it. It seems that people living within the drone and those producing the drone become immune to its deeply discomforting effect. On our side of the border, however, the drone has been causing quite the ruckus. For the last year or so, the weekly yard hall meetings have been filled to the brim in an attempt to come up with some kind of solution for the drone. I can't remember ever seeing so many folks riled up all together all at once. Too bad you can't get your people riled up like this, about war, or exploitation, or the incredulous song of a sunflower, perhaps. Wouldn't that be lovely? Anyway, the meetings have become quite a sight to see. The committee rings and dings, the judges pound down their fists, and the befuddled public huffs and puffs. The whole ordeal has become so loud and obnoxious, almost loud and obnoxious enough to drown out the drone, that we have begun waking the sleepers. Perhaps I haven't mentioned the sleepers to you, but as you might guess, they don't like to be woken up. They moan and groan and whine. They kick and scream. Their cheeks bunch up into wretched balls of anger, and their once soft faces disappear behind furrowed brows and clenched jaws. The problem of the drone had to be addressed before the sleepers woke up again, and that was that. After all, the last thing we'd want to do around here is disturb the peace. So we've gotten down to business and started brainstorming a plan. What could possibly be done about the horrible, awful, very bad drone buzz, moan, thug coming from across the border? Flint and Lou, our yard experts, have completed the official drone investigation. They held a number of interviews. Almost everyone in the yard put in their 2 cents, but it was the sunflowers that actually had something valuable to offer. They proposed to grow a wall of sunflowers, that is, on the border, so that the drone would not seep into the yard. We liked the idea. It turns out, and I remember reading this in a book a very long time ago, that the great sunflower is actually much like a worm, in that it can eat plain old dirt and poop out something much more valuable. The sunflower contains a filter, which specializes not in dirt, but in long, undulating energy waves. Sound, that is. Its great sun-worshipping petals absorb the dull buzzes and dreary drones produced by mundane and hopeless lifestyles. The experts indicate that the sunflower is so hopeful and so exciting that it is capable of absorbing sounds even as terrible as the drone coming from your life right now. As if that's not enough wonderful news, it seems that from the horrible, awful drone, a sunflower is capable of producing a beautiful and ethereal song, which feeds our wind, whom I must say has been relentlessly complaining of hunger all night long for at least a decade. All in all, the idea is that by growing the wall of sunflowers, we'll filter out the horrible, terrible, lifeless drone that seeps in from your side of the border, and at the same time feed the wind. Big news, right? I think so. I guess you've probably noticed that it's been some time since I've mentioned Ellen. As you may or may not remember, I used to mention her all the time. I used to tell you of her high forehead and the way she would furrow her brow for no understandable reason. I used to write about her pronounced cheekbones and the way she stood with her hands on her hips, with her feet spread and arranged to fit perfectly in a pair of softened cowgirl boots. These days I don't say much about that at all. If you're wondering how she is, well, I think she's doing fine. I hear she's down at the border, working on the sunflower planting project. She's very dedicated to the sunflowers. We all are. She doesn't give a shit about me anymore, though. She doesn't even give a shit enough to come tell me why she doesn't give a shit about me. She did say one thing before she stopped coming over, though. She said, "Huck, I can't stand this shit anymore." And then she said, "You take yourself so seriously." And then she said, "And see if you can decode this one. You're not even real, you know?" Well, I didn't know what the hell she meant by that, so I said, "What?" And she just sighed a big, long sigh, as if she had just settled into a hot bath. She was sitting on the bed, rubbing her thighs like she was cold, but it doesn't get cold here. And she had her head hung down, staring intently at her naked femaleness, as if searching for some abnormality between her legs, but there was nothing there except the usual morning cricket, tired after a long night of choir practice. Then she stood up and walked out of my humble home, just as naked as she had come. For a moment, it seemed awfully dark. I understand now why it was so dark that day. It was on that day that the blackness started seeping into my home. I realize I haven't told you about the blackness in previous letters. I guess I figured you wouldn't understand. But now that you have your kaleidoscope, or something to that extent, on hand, I hope that it will be a more accessible concept. The truth is, I'm not exactly sure how to describe the blackness to you, but I'll do my best. It's a sort of condition from which I suffer, although it's not so painful as it might sound. In fact, it's quite peaceful, only slightly disturbing. It's a sort of still darkness that comes to me, swallows me, and leaves me motionless for days sometimes. When the darkness leaves me, I find myself quite grumpy and out of sorts, but at least I'm myself again. I haven't told anyone but you about this. I'm not sure whom else to tell. I would tell Ellen, but she never comes around anymore, and I'd feel strange going all the way down to the borderlands just to tell Ellen about the blackness. I don't know what she'd think of me then. I've decided to go down to the borderlands after all. I hear that some of the sunflowers have begun to grow tall. I hear that when the sunflowers sing their song, they sound like old women laughing mischievously. I can't think of any sound more intriguing. I hear that the wind has been feasting on the sound and blowing strong, thankful gusts towards the giant windmill to the east. That's what the others tell me, at least. I'd like to see for myself. And I'd like to see Ellen. The blackness came to me this morning, just as I finished making my coffee. When I came to, the coffee was cold. Damn it, I thought. And I couldn't help but consider that the blackness began the day that Ellen left me. I'm sure she has something to say about that. I remember one time I tried to lend her this book. She thought the book was really important to me because I was always bringing it everywhere, picking it up and reading it any chance I got. It's this book I brought with me when I first came out here. You probably saw it on my coffee table or next to my bed when you used to come over to my old apartment. I don't miss that apartment. It was stuffy and full of drone, even if I didn't notice it then. I didn't even read that damn book when I lived there. I just let it float around the place like some daunting reminder of my lack of self-motivation. There it was in the kitchen, there it was in the bedroom, there it was by my front door, and there it was in my coat pocket. I was on page 11. I loved it, but I couldn't make it past page 11. I could never get through more than half a book back then. I hated myself for it. You might like to know that I don't hate myself so much here. I only hate myself sometimes, but not so often as I used to. Now it's more like a slight irritation when it comes, instead of pure hatred and vengeance. Anyway, Back to what I was saying. I wanted to lend her this book, but she said it was too important to me. She refused it. Women always refuse gifts right before they leave you. I should have seen it coming. It was this book that was written by this guy who lived so long ago, I don't even think he lived to hear the drone, lucky kid. Back then, even normal folks like you knew about the borderlands. And they wouldn't have needed kaleidoscopes to see the sunflowers. There wasn't even any need for cataracts. This guy wrote about swift horses drawing dung carts, not drone. He warned that if the was forgotten, war horses would breed in the borderlands. I believe the guy. War horses do breed especially well in the warm climate produced by the drone. I, however, only sunburn, blister, and peel. Don't you remember how my mom would rub me down with sunscreen 3 times a day during the summer? I hated that shit. I hated the way it got stuck in the webbing of my fingers and toes. That's another reason I've been worrying a little about my trip to the borderlands. Wherever the drone is stronger, which it is at the borderlands, the sun sends stronger light rays. Lou and Flint, the experts, say this is because the sun has also become agitated with the drone, and in her anger has begun showering your side of the border with light rays hot enough to burn. Have you noticed? I can't say I've only been worried about sunburns. That would be a lie. Lies don't really fly around here. I've been worried about seeing Ellen. I might even go so far as to say I've been worried about being sunburned and seeing Ellen at the same time. Is that very vain of me? Well, what the hell? Maybe I'm a little vain. I'm also worried because I love her and miss her, and I feel very serious about these things. But I wouldn't want her to see the seriousness on my face and think that I'm taking myself too seriously. After all, that's what I understand she doesn't like about me. I am worried, but not too worried to go. You see, I've already begun planning the trip. At last night's yard hall meeting, I announced that I would go to the borderlands to see for myself the beauty of the sunflowers, and hear for myself the song, and feel for myself the grateful gusts of wind. Everyone approved. Flint drew me a map of the yard so that I might find my way with no trouble at all. The children have already begun writing my departure song. They will come to my house tomorrow morning when my bags are packed to perform it.
He's off to see the mighty flower, to hear the mighty song, to feel the mighty gust of wind. He seeks his love all wrong. Be wary of a blackness you may have never seen. It might steal you forever if you don't wake and dream. Be wary of the drone who floods the dead with memories. If you fall asleep too soon, you'll wake too late to see. He's off to see the mighty flower, to hear the mighty song, to feel the mighty gust of wind. He seeks his love all wrong. We have faith in your journey. We have faith in you to dream. We have little faith in you at all, but we have faith all the same.
This was the departure song that the children performed for me today at my doorstep. Now, I haven't lived here long, but I have heard quite a few children's songs in my day, and I think this one was meant to frighten the hell out of me. It's not looking good for your old bud Huck. P.S. How do the children know about the blackness? I would have asked them if they hadn't been so quick to run for it. I bet they went to their hideout. I've been thinking about the song a lot. I haven't left my house yet. I've been busy trying to track down the children so that I'd be able to ask them a load of questions about what they said in that song. I checked out the map that Flint gave me. The children's hideout isn't on it. Of course it's not. It wouldn't be much of a hideout then, would it? I've been studying the map quite a bit, though, and I've decided to head out this afternoon. There's no use sitting in the bathtub thinking about that song any longer. I'm starting to look like an old elephant. First stop, the windmill. From there, I can cross the great hill into the valley of the borderlands. They say from there I should just follow the sweet smell of the sunflower song.